If Biden gets his way, female college students will shower and change next to male college students. Referring to someone using biologically correct pronouns will get you hauled in front of a disciplinary board for harassment. And scholarships, previously reserved for women, will now be open to anyone claiming to be a woman.
Last week, the Biden administration finally answered the burning question, what is a woman? And the answer is clearly a man who wants to dress up like a woman. And they're putting it in law. Title IX has been rewritten now. Richard Nixon would be turning over in his grave if he knew what they did to Title IX. Well, the states are pushing back. There's brand new lawsuits suing the Biden administration. Some states, their governors have just said, forget it. We're ignoring these new Title IX rules. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the first female governor to speak up about this in Arkansas, she took it one step further. Take a look.
If Biden gets his way, female college students will shower and change next to male college students. Referring to someone using biologically correct pronouns will get you hauled in front of a disciplinary board for harassment. And scholarships, previously reserved for women, will now be open to anyone claiming to be a woman. My message to Joe Biden and the federal government is that we will not comply. In a moment, I'll sign an executive order reiterating our laws and instructing our educational institutions and the Arkansas Department of Education to follow them. And if President Biden threatens our state with loss of educational funding because we refuse to go along with his election year pandering, Arkansas will take the federal government to court. That's because this issue goes far beyond a single locker room or a missed scholarship. The truth is important. Biology is important. The differences between men and women are important. Title IX was created because of those fundamental truths, and for half a century has allowed women and girls to access colleges, sports, and scholarships that were previously unavailable. We won't let Biden threaten that, and we certainly will not let him erase our existence as women.
Brilliant stuff, and well said. And she's very, to the point. She learned the hard way under fire in the White House briefing room. So, Robert, this issue, I think, could very well be an important political issue because the one constituency Biden does well with that Trump needs help with are those suburban moms. And this speaks directly to them and their daughters, I think.
Larry, as someone who has a daughter and of that age bracket, I will tell you right now that it is an absurdity that we have to have governors signing executive orders saying that a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl. It is also an absurdity that you have an administration, a Biden administration, so full of leftists that they are legalizing something that 10 years ago was a felony, having a man show up in a girl's locker room naked. Bottom line here is this will not stand. This is a huge wedge issue. This is an issue where 95% of the American people in the quiet of the night think this is dead wrong. Women fought for 50 years, more than 50 actually, to get Title IX, and that is a defense of women, not a defense of men who want to be women. So look, we have people who have counseling for things like agoraphobia and claustrophobia and being something that you're not and thinking you are, well, you need some counseling. But at the end of the day, you can be compassionate to those people without eviscerating the rights that women fought for 50 years to have. And look, the Republican Party is now a pro-woman, pro-girl party, and the Democrat Party is an anti-girl party. And if there is not if a Democrat does not stand up for girls, they're on the wrong side of history.
Well, and Akash, from an Americans for Prosperity perspective, I find this to be an issue of the Constitution, an issue of states being able to determine these things. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is the governor of Arkansas, and she won overwhelmingly, and the people of Arkansas, they wouldn't want something like this. If this works for Gavin Newsom in California, fine. But rewriting Title IX and mandating this across the board, that flies in the face of what our country's supposed to be about.
No, you're exactly right. I think there's actually two constitutional issues here. The substance of it aside, I think as conservatives, we're clear where we are on the substance. It's one, if to the extent this is an education policy, it is, as you mentioned, should be dealt with by the states. To the extent that it involves federal law, there is zero chance that the executive branch alone has the authority in the Constitution to just go and do something this outrageous, this extreme, and frankly, this important This should be a question for Congress, right? If we're going to completely rewrite civil rights law in this manner, Congress is the body that should be doing that. But this administration, on issue after issue after issue, has abused its executive authority, has overstepped the power vested in it by Congress, and frankly rammed its progressive agenda down the throats of the American people by executive fiat when Congress has refused to do so, and when they know that their agenda is unpopular. Again, all because they're vote pandering in an election year to their progressive base. That's ultimately what all these things come down to. And it's an absolute affront, not just to common sense, but to our constitutional system of government as well.
Matt Foldy, of course, I want to hear you chime in on this, but in addition to your opinion on the issue at hand, also comment on the importance of the visuals. You understand how stories need to be communicated to voters, to the American people, whether it's in traditional media or social media. Having that young woman standing next to her, Riley Gaines, who has become such a symbol of fairness for women in sports, she didn't even have to say anything, but she's so recognizable now that lends to sort of the popularity of this issue, I think, for Republican governors like Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah, I agree about this. And it's interesting, two things, from the Biden standpoint and from the Sarah Huckabee Sanders standpoint. Think about it from the Biden standpoint in terms of your point about optics. When is he doing this? When is he pushing these policies on colleges? As colleges are rioting for jihad, I call this the DEI intifada that we're seeing on campuses. So at a time when Jews are being banned by students and faculty from campuses, the Biden administration is saying, we care more about punishing someone like Riley Gaines than we do about punishing people who are illegally banning students from attending colleges that they spend way too much money to attend. I agree, obviously, then on the Sarah Huckabee Sanders side, brilliant move, of course, to have Riley Gaines there. And I think this fits into a broader thing that we're seeing out of Arkansas, a state I pay attention to because my grandma's from there. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders has been able to do a lot while Congress has sort of not really done much, including things on China buying land, not being allowed to do that in Arkansas anymore. This is always the advantage that governors have over people in the federal government, is that they run the show, unless some Democrats are trying to put obstacles in their way. And so she's been able to rack up conservative win after conservative win after conservative win. And then kind of to tie it all back together, it's interesting. Title IX is under siege by Biden, and Title VI is under siege by colleges this week. It's a bad week to be a title. And Northwestern, for example, is being sued for violating Title VI because it took the wrong lesson. It caved to these illegal Palestinian protesters and said, we are creating scholarships specifically for Palestinians, which could not be more illegal if Northwestern tried. This makes sense because if they were smart at law, they would go to the University of Chicago.
I'll give myself the last word on this one, since you gentlemen were so brilliant, frankly, and textured with your responses. I'll just say this. In my lifetime, at least in the last 15 years, I've seen two great political movements born in this country, both from the conservative side of the equation. The Tea Party movement, which ultimately coalesced around the Trump presidency in 2016, shocking the world, and the Parents at School Board movement. And both of those movements had something in common. American citizens, regardless of what their party registration was up until that point, they were sick and tired. They were done. They were finally going to say something. And the school board parent movement, it coalesces around an issue like this. And Joe Biden and the Democrats are on the wrong side of it. And when there's a new, exciting, enthusiastic, well-formed political movement in this country, you do not want to be on the wrong side.